Catherine. Hey, Brian. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, Kiah, how you doing?
Hi, Kiah. Nice to be here. Thanks for the invite.
My first question for you guys before we hop into this movie is, have either of you guys worked in sales before?
No, never worked in sales. But Brian, what about you?
Well, for the viewers that see this, I am in my sales duds right now. I have worked in sales. Most of my adult life has been in sales, mostly in banking, running
Okay.
branches, but getting people to bank with me, commercial lending, deposit generation. I have been in dark rooms with phone books dialing for dollars, maybe not with pay phones, but with large phones with long cords. I've been there. I've lived that life a little bit. Maybe not to the point of the people in this movie, but I have done my time in sales. I still do sales, right? So yes, I kind of commiserate with some of the characters in this movie.
I think Matt Levine talks about how so much of financial services is actually sales, especially, at the kind of some of the more branch transaction levels, and that sometimes that can be a little confusing, especially I think this came up during some scandals where the bank or the financial institution was accused of not acting in the customer's interest. And you're like, well, they're not a fiduciary, so no legal obligation to do that. But I could see how that would be upsetting to learn that
Yeah.
that person was not acting in your interest, or they were receiving incentives or compensation that was that for selling you a product that wasn't ultimately a good fit. So I do like that you just dropped in, oh, I worked in sales, but at a bank.
I mean, there are consumer protection.
I worked during that whole Wells Fargo crisis where they were selling like multiple credit cards to people.
Yeah.
And I was like, how are they only dinging Wells Fargo? My bank's doing this too. Like I worked for a big bank too, many big banks. I said the secret is that they're all doing
Yeah.
it. And I may have been one of those bad actors, but I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't admit that, but
No,
I
that's a
realize
juicy
now
way to
it's all
start
about
out.
relationships.
Yeah.
People like doing business with people they like.
Right.
None of the people in this darn movie are likable. So
I worked in retail, and you would have to sell a credit card. That was a thing about like retail. It had a store credit card. And so there was always like a way to pitch that. And you would do it like at the point of sale, obviously. You'd always try to like explain what the benefits were to your purchase today. Sometimes there'd be like the people who shouldn't be getting the credit card, or like they were like a little too young, or like the questions they were asking indicated that like maybe this wasn't a great fit for them. But yeah, I sold credit cards, and I feel like now as a person who has a bunch of credit cards, when people ask me about credit cards, I always like try to not sell them on like necessarily the one I have, and I always like say if I will benefit from like referring them. But I'm always like, well, what's important to you? What feels safe and comfortable and like approachable to you? Not having a fiduciary, but I also understand that like I don't want to get anyone into financial trouble or get them into a product that's just not right for them. So it's like I'm not the best salesperson, and I feel like that's actually really important to me.
Kiah, for the listeners that don't know you're a points hacker, how many credit cards do you have?
I have 16.
ooh,
So I have a lot of recommendations if they ask. Lots of experiences.
look at all those there.
Wow.
No, mine's really long. At Kroger, sometimes I'll be looking for one card, and I'm like, you just got to go up and down because they're like certain colors, like they're too similar. So,
Gosh.
um,
I want to talk more about some of the sales tactics, but first let's get into our thoughts on our big thoughts on the movie, probably, right?
yeah. So I had not seen this movie before. I kind of knew about it. Actually didn't realize the whole title of the film was Glengarry Glen Ross. I thought it was Glengarry Glen or something. So it was my first time seeing it. Catherine, was this your first time seeing it?
First time seeing the film, I knew of the play. Like,
Okay.
I knew of the film too. I mean, I knew that it was like this big Al Pacino with like this Alec Baldwin cameo, and Kiah, we're 2 out of 3 on this podcast for Kevin Spacey movies.
Kevin Spacey
so
movies.
Oh, jeez.
Tough.
Oh, Margin
Tough.
Call, you guys watched?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So tough. But I was more familiar really with it as a play, which it was a play before it was a movie. And there was a revival on Broadway last year with Kieran Culkin as Roma, the Al Pacino character, and Bob Odenkirk as the Machine
Shelley?
Levine. Yeah,
Shelley.
Shelley the Machine Levine. And I remember that made some waves in the I think that I've mentioned before that I'm like into the theater community. So anyway.
Okay.
But yeah.
Brian?
Pulitzer Prize winning drama in 1984. What are we
Yeah.
missing?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Brian, what's your experience with Glengarry Glen Ross?
So, not to get too off the rails with my film geekdom, but I remember watching this movie basically right. I don't think I did not see it in the theater. At that point, I was probably, it was 1992. So, 13 years old, 14 years old. And so I watched it on video. I most likely did rent it at Blockbuster. And I had a lot of friends that were film geeks. And with this powerhouse cast, Al Pacino, who had just come off of Dick Tracy and Godfather Part 3.
Yeah.
He's in this movie. You know, you got Alan Arkin, Ed Harris. Like, just the cast was amazing, so we wanted to see it. And then watching it, there's no action in the movie at all. And we wanted to watch gangster and action movies. But the dialogue feels like action, right? It's like
So
oppressive.
snappy.
It's like in your face. And that's the Mamet, those Mametisms, like where people are talking over people, long diatribes, almost like a rhythmic nature to the dialogue. So I think we enjoyed it, but we didn't look at it, like looking back on it as an adult now, it is a little tough to watch. It feels a little dated. And full disclosure, I didn't rewatch the whole thing in prep of this, but I've seen it several times since or previously. So, yeah.
All right. So, for listeners who haven't seen the movie, what would you say the movie is about? And, what is Glengarry Glen Ross?
It's about these men who can't get their acts together. No, that's not what I'd say.
Losers?
Catherine was a big fan of the movie, by the way. Big fan. Loved every minute of it.
Thought that this movie had some great acting and some really important writing, but oh my gosh, watching this was a bit of a slog for me. That said, it's like 24 hours, not even, in the lives of these salesmen, right? Who sell real estate. This whole concept is honestly, it eludes me a little bit. That they where they get these leads from, where they're are they buying the leads? Are they giving the leads? Like, I don't know. Brian, maybe you have some more insight into how the technical,
Brian,
what
how are we
actually
making sales
happened.
in the 90s?
I
How
mean-
were we doing this?
1992,
Well, I know.
what was going on?
He and I were talking, like, it's still kind of ambiguous to me what they're actually selling. And Kiah, you said, I don't mean to steal your thunder, but like, people are buying 8 of them. Like,
Yeah, one of the couples buys 8 of something, and I think Glengarry Glen Ross refers to 2 different developments that are in speculation or something. And so
This was the
It's
Rio
lots of
Rand
land,
show.
maybe?
Yes. Yes. And the pressure is on because the movie kind of starts out no one's having a good month, or just one person in the office is having a good month for these sales of this speculative real estate development. And there is a quote unquote motivational trainer, Blake, who is sent down to the office, and he basically yells at them and makes them feel bad, and then says, at the end of the month, 2 of you are losing your job. And I think the end of the month is very soon. And then if you are the number 1 salesperson, you win a car for the month. And then if you are the second place, you get steak knives. So I was also very confused about the value of steak knives in 1992.
There's some nice ones.
I mean,
really nice ones.
they must be about half the value of a car. Is
No, I don't think that it's like that. I think it's a consolation prize. But I think that Alec Baldwin as Blake, his speech at the beginning kind of sets the tone for what this movie is. And in a lot of ways, obviously, this movie ages really poorly in terms of the derogatory terms towards gay people and a lot of the racism. That said, I think that the idea of the dying American dream and honestly certain standards, speaking as someone who certain standards of masculinity, speaking as a woman, I think that those 2 themes, which are really a pall over the whole movie, those are still pretty relevant. Anyway, that's we got off of what this movie is actually about, but I think that's
agree.
what this movie's about.
I agree. I mean, the big thing about sales is fear of rejection. That's why salespeople don't make it. They don't want another no on the other end of that line. And you literally see that personified in some of these characters. They're like beaten into submission. They're like schlubs. You know, Alan Arkin, Jack Lemmon, who Jack Lemmon is probably the most accessible character. Would you agree in the movie?
Shelley.
That you can kind of identify with? Yeah, Shelley.
Yeah, he's the most, I think, the person that you get the most glimpses of like what motivates him and how hard he works. And it's weird because the movie's so bleak, but he seems like an optimist. Either he's an optimist or he's a masochist, right? Like, because instead of just quitting, he tries harder. And it quote unquote works out for him because he gets this couple at 3 a.m. to agree to buy 8 of whatever they're selling, which we think is some sort of speculative real estate. And then he finds out later that, you know, spoiler of this 1992 movie, that like the check won't clear likely. And that this couple is just like weirdos who enjoy talking to salespeople for like the high theater of it. And then, you know, he's like, well, why did you, and like a whole thing about this movie is the leads and the quality of the leads, that they are given these people's names and their numbers and contact info. And they're just, they beat them into submission till they sign. So you go away. But then he finds out that like the office manager has just given him these terrible leads because he doesn't personally like him. And you're just like, yes, I would have quit my job about 24 hours or if not sooner, 24 hours ago, right? But yes, I agree with you, Brian.
He's stuck in the glory days, I think. Like there is a level of optimism, I'm sure, with him, but it's almost like he used to be, I guess, like they talk about how he used to be this like great salesman, you know, 15, 20 years ago, whatever. Now being replaced by the younger generation, Al Pacino's character. And like it seems like he's just, you know, stuck in that mindset. I don't know if he loves the game, but it's such a rat race. Like it feels like every month they're given these leads of varying qualities, and it's just they have to close them. And then when they do, next month they get more leads. Like it's just that never-ending hamster wheel. Like can't quite make it. Reminiscent to me of like, you know, Death of a Salesman too, like Willie Loman on set. I guess this was trivia that I learned that on the set of the movie they would call this Death of a fucking Salesman as like a joke because they dropped so many F-bombs throughout the movie.
I'm sure several of these actors probably played Willie Loman at some point in their careers in high school or on Broadway or something. But I was just going to mention, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, Catherine, but
no, go ahead, please.
The Alec Baldwin scene lives in infamy. And by the way, I do think there's a weird, like, humorous streak in this movie. Because it's such a weird thing to watch. Like, I'm a kid who's 14 watching these people in an office. It just seems so weird and icky. And I don't think the Alec Baldwin character, which you guys know, was written just for the movie. Like, that Bob Odenkirk, Kieran Culkin, that scene was not on stage.
Yeah.
It was just for the movie. It's just bizarre. He's like an alien. First of all, who's paying him to like? I don't like. Do they have the money to pay like a Tony Robbins figure to meet with these schlubs? It's just weird.
In
but
the
that
Sheep's
scene,
Head Bay branch of this company, like
I know, and he's got he's my $80,000 car. You drove a Hyundai here. You know, it's like I don't know. It's just so over the top. I think there is a little bit of like humor in that. But that scene lives in infamy, and every salesperson, every all the bravado that just drips from that scene, it does endure. Even to this day, there's people much younger than me that idolize this scene. There's a movie called Boiler Room, which might be on your list of movies to see with Vin Diesel, Ben Affleck, and they actually watched that scene in that movie. That movie came out in 1999 or 1998 or something like that. And it's just this like ultimate sales scene. Coffee is for closers. Keith Daly, my coworker, literally bought that. It's in the Travillian office in our coffee room. It says coffee is for closers. And I will sip a cup in Keith's
coffee's for closers. That's so funny. I talked to another like real estate person a few months ago, unrelated to this completely, but he was buying a poster that said always be closing for his office. So it really does live on.
Entrenched in pop culture. It's just, it is like a, it's there. It permeates the sales world. Yeah.
And it really like underscores how pathetic, like the level of patheticness there is too. I mean, like when Alec Baldwin brings out like and he's like, you have to have brass balls to close, and like,
It's
I mean,
so over the top.
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But then like you have the one character, I can't remember his name, who's like, I just can't close anymore. I can't close anymore.
Yeah.
Which that, I mean, it's just so pathetic. It's so sad. It's like,
I know.
oh God, like this is just like, what is this?
Well,
about?
there comes a point in every man's life, every person's life, where you kind of reach your plateau, right? Like, and I guess that's just a pathetic nature that these salesmen eventually are not going to be good anymore. I don't know. Maybe that's overly simplistic, but again, it's pathetic. That's the word. I said downer. I said pathetic. Those are the things, even as a kid watching it, that I remembered. So I agree, Catherine.
I also, Catherine was like, what are the financial themes of this movie, right? This whole podcast is about kind of banking, but also I've expanded it to money because that's kind of the thing banks sell. Is money. And I was like, oh, well, we can talk about late stage capitalism and the decline of masculinity. But now when you guys are talking about the reverence that people have for this movie, it makes me think of like, as journalists, there's like journalist movies, and every like generation there's a new journalist movie that then inspires the next generation. I don't
all
have
the President's Men.
This is all the Spotlight.
This is all the President's Men for salespeople.
Right. And I also I can't believe anyone would watch this movie and be like, oh, iconic, or like aspire to anything in this movie. But then I think like also too, so again, thinking about making these parallels, maybe the despair a salesman feels about struggling to make a sale is like writer's block, or the author who publishes like their first book is really good and then they worry about like writing a second good book. And I don't know if I'd want to empathize with those characters or like see myself in those characters or like quote what they do, but I certainly, I guess, see like this kind of universal struggle and experience. Although again, I would have just quit my job. Like I would have been like, no, it can't, like the next 24 hours can't be worse than working here.
You definitely get the anti-hero, and like to your point, you get the anti-hero. Like, I don't really empathize with this person because they're awful, but like, like the Tony Soprano or the Walter White, like, it's like, oh God, they're terrible, but like they're the main character.
Yeah.
Marty Supreme, to name a really recent example.
Oh yeah.
But also to be like, I don't like this character, but they are behaving in a way because they are incentivized to behave in this way. And, like the salesmen, to kind of move to even the conversation about some of the financial themes, the salesmen are scamming people because they are also, one, kind of being scammed, right? They're like, they work at this terrible job and they're told like, you it's your fault, you can't close. And so like, it's like the ball is kind of rolling down the hill that they're trying to rip people off because they're getting ripped off. And like, the real problem is the unseen bosses and the high pressure sales environment, right?
Brian, what were your moves?
Yeah, what were your tricks? Like, what was your, like, maybe legal, maybe not legal, like, a little sus?
Okay, well.
It's like, sell me this stapler, and then I'd be like, do you have 2 pieces of paper? And then, of course, you staple them together. Or, you need a stapler to do that, whatever. Anyway, so it's kind of funny because the more I've been in sales over my career, the more I realize, again, people want to do business with people that they like. People who know, who can add value. It's so simple. It's not about manipulation.
Okay.
Right? It's about, I was just talking to Brent Beardall, the CEO of WaFd, yesterday on a call, and I was asking him about, what makes a good leader, what makes a good banker. And, banking is such a noble profession. What these people are doing is like none of that. It's not noble. It's not really helpful. I mean, yeah, maybe these people on the other end of the line want to make a quick buck, but you're not really, it's a transaction. And that's, again, this is a relic of the time it was written, 1980s. You could talk a million years about the 80s, the Reagan era economy. It was shot and released in 1992. Then looking back on it in 2026, after the Patriot Act, the CFPB, the financial crisis, it looks so weird. I don't know. I just feel like in this day and age and how connected we are with our phones and technology, it's just weird. And I can't see it as a primer on anyone really being a good salesperson. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, and I've never worked in sales, but I can speak to being on the other end. I feel like I've been in situations where salespeople are really pushing, something at
Yes.
you, and like using kind of like the fear tactics, the intimidation tactics,
Oh,
the
yeah.
like hyping you up, and like when it's all coming at once, it can be really overwhelming. And like we see that the guy who Roma had sold to the night before, who comes in the next day and is like, my wife said, like, I don't know what happened. Like, my wife said we have to cancel this. He's almost apologetic, right? Because Roma had really played to like his feelings of insecurity. And like, that's something that, I can like certainly understand. A running theme is with that me and Kiah talk about is I am extremely sympathetic, empathetic to consumers in a way where I think that they shouldn't have to understand complex financial things. Me and Kiah sometimes get into disagreements about how much they should understand. But like, this guy comes back and he's like he's like the consumer, someone said that I have 3 days to cancel this. And
consumer financial protections for the win.
Yeah, right. And I feel like we've all or I don't know about we've all, I've definitely been there where I've like made a purchase because I felt pressure to do something like fast. And it's like, oh, wait, what did I do? Like, it's like concert tickets are about to sell out. Like, if you don't get them right now, like you won't be able to go. And it's like, oh, geez, did I just pay that much for like nosebleed seats?
Wait, did Kiah did she sell you a credit card once too back in the day?
I would never.
And I'm still living with it.
Oh, geez.
So when we think about like fintech and we think about some of these consumer fintech products that are supposed to be really innovative, I think it kind of, there's a continuum. There's like buy now, pay later and earned wage access. And I think that those can be really useful tools for certain situations, and then also just like really easy buttons for other situations. And then we think about like kind of prediction markets, sports betting, and the ease of that. And I listening to Catherine, I'm kind of reminded about like kind of this false sense of urgency. This comes up in scams a lot too, where someone who's trying to scam you over the phone is trying to really emphasize, like say like, this is important, this is urgent, you have to act, it's all you can't tell anyone. And you kind of see some of these tactics in the movie. There's also the like, I'm not going to like, let's go pick up your wife from the PTA meeting, going into the home at like 8 p.m., which is like a millennial's worst nightmare, that someone would come to your house unannounced and then just not leave your house. But it's funny too, because you kind of like, these aren't necessarily about money per se, but these are kind of psychological tactics to get people to separate themselves from their money. And we live in this world today, and that world was kind of being cultivated through the technology that was available, or the channels that were available in 1992, right? Like there's kind of nothing new under the sun, but it was interesting to now be in this world where, false sense of urgency. I think about like, I just bought like a plane ticket this week, and there's a 24-hour like undo period, right? Like you get your money back, no questions asked. It's like a consumer right? Like that's not the airlines being cool and nice. Like that's like a law that they had to do to get that back. Or we think about like, some of these chargeback laws or rules that kind of govern some of these payments, and how, consumers, those protect consumers can use them to their advantage. But they kind of exist because of these moments where, again, you're an ignorant consumer and you don't know better and you don't know what's happening to you. And then someone comes in and just swoops in and like eats your lunch, right? And you're like, sure, here's a check, right?
So in a way, you're saying that this movie is like a primer for sales manipulation.
Yeah.
So if you want to learn
the one good thing about this movie is learn how to rip people
someone.
off.
But I will stand up just for 1 second and say, from the salesperson perspective, there's no greater thrill than making that sale. You probably know this feeling. Both of you know this feeling. The salespeople, maybe stand up for the salespeople, because when you make that sale, it is euphoric. Like, it's a great feeling. And I don't know if that's really, the movie's really talking about that, but they're all chasing that, right?
Yeah.
It's success. It's, maybe they got one over on, I never felt like I got one over, but they feel that. It's kind of, if there is a psychology, like I have an 18-year-old son. He works at a large retail establishment and he is slightly introverted, but he led that store in sales of their credit card for 2 months straight. He brought home a little plaque and a set of steak knives. No, not really that.
A new car?
A Cadillac.
A new car?
A new car, yeah. But like, isn't that odd? There's like a dichotomy there. That thrill of, for lack of a better term, manipulating someone to do something that benefits maybe you more than them or equally or whatever it is.
Right.
There is a rush from that, and there's a sense of pride that comes from that. So I don't know. I can identify with that to some degree.
Yeah.
No, it's a different part of the brain for sure. I mean, like the psychology and everything, like being like selling and being on the sales end.
So another theme that I think kind of comes up in financial services that maybe, again, is not the most flattering side of financial services was the element of like deceit, deception, outright lying. Now, in this movie, they are selling to consumers, and I think, to Catherine's point, those are different. There's an information asymmetry between the salesperson and the person buying that can be unfair or abusive, to use a couple of terms that regulators love. But in financial services and in journalism, I always make this argument. Sometimes like lying is part of the job, or it's part of the interaction. And Matt Levine, I think, has like documented this over the years.
At Bloomberg.
So Matt Levine at Bloomberg will write about like traders or people who are, buying and selling stuff on the behalf of institutional clients. And they have to do some price discovery. And sometimes the price discovery will have elements of like, they'll say something that's like not 100% true, but they're just trying to get some pricing information. So they've got to just say, they've got to say something so they can get this information. And over the years, there have been lawsuits about whether that was a material misrepresentation, whether that was front running, whether that's like insider information, right? Whether you have a duty to keep that private. And I think that's really interesting because there are, no one's saying like, no one's being like, yeah, but you did it wrong. They're just like, hey, that worked out. That hurt me. Like when you were doing price discovery, someone realized why you were asking and then sold a bunch of stuff. So then I got a lower price ultimately. And I thought that was interesting because we see some of that, again, to do the false sense of urgency, to drive the pressure to the consumer. We see some of this like lying and they're all kind of doing it. And it's all like a really normal thing.
Well, and the characters are in their like way later lives. They've probably been doing it for 40 years.
So normal. Yeah. The president's in town, or like, hey, this guy is the vice president of Amex. I got to take him to the airport so I can't talk. Like, I feel like the real illegal thing was the misstating of the law around the 3 days. So that would have been really terrible. And the guy's really like sticking to his guns and being like, I can't leave. Like, I live here now until you give me that check back,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
wow. I can't believe we got from Glengarry Glen Ross to Kiah thinks Charlie Javis is innocent.
My girl Charlie did nothing wrong. That's just negotiations, due diligence.
For the fintech fans, any fans of Forbes 30 under 32 fraud pipeline, that is Kiah's take. Anyway.
It's everywhere in financial services. Lying is everywhere, and it's kind of okay. And people like this movie, and then they look in my face and tell me that Charlie Jarvis did something wrong. No. Intellectual consistency and honesty all the way.
I don't know why you're making it's what I'm thinking of right now is sitting across from the table from someone about to open a home equity line of credit or a mortgage with me when I was a banker, and the piles of documents that they would have to sign that were all consumer protection documents. And then I think back to this movie, a lot of these things probably didn't exist in 1984, 1985, 1992. So I don't know. I've never been like a liar. I mean, I feel like trying to kick the door open to have a larger conversation. You'll probably say whatever you need to say.
Yeah.
You control them on LinkedIn. You can find, I mean, I don't know what they did back in the day, but you know, some group they're part of, you know, they like the Philadelphia Eagles. So you like, just there's like these kind of manipulatory tactics to make them feel like they've known you. I've done those things, but I've never like outright like kind of fudged a number to try and get someone in a product or like a car salesman technique. I've not done that, but it's still, I mean, it's still out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, financial services just does have more protection, like legally protections in place. And I mean, to your point, you said banking is a like noble profession. I think a lot of bankers see themselves as like people with a lot of integrity. I wonder if you asked those characters, like in character in Glengarry Glen Ross, like, do you think you have a lot of integrity in this role? Like what they would say.
Yeah.
Because like you said, I mean, like bankers, like when they are selling home equity lines of credit or what have you, they're like, from their perspective, from what I've always heard from bankers, you know, it's helping a young couple like renovate their nursery. It's helping like an immigrant pay for their car. It's helping. This is a scam, right? Like, Kiah, you made the connection to like MLMs. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so one of the questions that I like to think about with these movies is, could this movie have a modern remake today, especially, you know, movies that are decades old? And then what would need to change in order to make it a modern remake? And, you know, I was trying to think, like, so one of the things we've talked about is, like, we're not 100% sure what they're selling. No. It seems to be real estate, but it's speculative. We don't know where the leads came from. I think they come from magazine inserts that you could, like, rip out of a magazine. The little like, they're like cardboardy paper.
There used to be like 50 of them if you like dump the magazine.
Yeah, you would,
like, well, like, no,
This kind of just doesn't, this sales environment or the approach to sales just doesn't seem to resonate, which I think made it harder for me to watch the movie for the first time because the technology is just so different. But what I was thinking about was the high pressure environment, this idea of like, it kind of seems like, you know, Alec Baldwin coming in, the leads, like you'll get a good lead if you close this bad lead, or like your quota for the month. That kind of actually all reminded me of an MLM, a multi-level marketing scheme. And that these guys are in the downline, right? And they're trying to get people below them to be in their downline so they can kind of advance up the pyramid. And sometimes, like, also in the MLM, it's not actually clear what you're selling. Like, some of the stuff is like just, I don't know, supplements or cleaning supplies or whatever. It's very nebulous.
Workout plan.
No one needs, So I was thinking that if Glengarry Glen Ross was recast today, one, you could get a lot more women in the movie if you were doing an MLM. So did anyone else have any thoughts on this modern remake or like kind of the parallels between the high pressure and, you know, the upstream downline?
There is like a semi-sequel, I think. Wolf of Wall Street is almost like a semi-sequel because it all starts in this, like, they have like if I recall, there's like a dingy room with phones that they're all selling these like penny junk stocks. It's kind of that same setup as these guys in Glengarry Glen Ross, but then it gets pushed to the absolute extreme, right, as that movie unfolds.
Totally.
So I kind of feel like that's like the next chapter of this movie, maybe not.
That's what Alec Baldwin does when he returns to office. Is he's that guy at the top?
Was he in Wolf of Wall Street too?
No, I'm just saying, like,
okay.
That's what he's trying to telegraph, like he's that guy.
Oh, right.
Oh,
yeah,
he's
exactly.
Jordan Belfort.
Yeah,
I see.
Maybe.
Jordan Belfort still does motivational speaking. So maybe next podcast. But yeah, no, I totally see that, Brian. I was also thinking about the way that like basically leads come in today and like just data mining and how like every company that wants your data can basically buy it and get it. Back in 1992 or 1984, you had to like fill out like, oh, I live at this address and I got this slip from a magazine and like send like, I guess put a stamp on it, like, and send it in.
I think they're prepaid postage.
All right. Well, anyway, like go to the post office or drop it by a mailbox.
Were there terms and conditions?
Yeah.
That people
like who knows? Now, you know, it's like you sign up for Netflix and
all these companies can like
Get your
target you
data
for
from that.
different things to varying levels. I mean, obviously, like getting an email is like from some other company marketing to you is not the same as getting like a crazy phone call at 3 a.m.
Well, but to your point about data mining, the other way I thought you could do a Glengarry Glen Ross remake is if a scam office in Myanmar trying to trick people in the United States or around the world via text messaging to give up money, right? Because I also think that's a pretty, from what I've read of this reporting, there's a lot of like human trafficking, like what do they call it? Like imprisonment. Yeah, they're like, these are bad places. But like, you're right. The leads are all of the data mine that has been, all that information that's been stolen or sold, and then the whole, the scenes where they're calling on the payphone. That's just going to be someone trying to convince you that it's the CIA, and there's been some fraud on your account, and you've got to transfer the money out. Right? Like, that's where this world went.
I think that going back to the psychology of it, like some probably very reasonable people can fall for these scams and like get roped into these things. I don't know if, Brian, there was an article in New York Magazine a couple years ago where this woman who was, I think she was like a financial reporter.
She was the personal financial writer at New York Magazine.
Yeah. And she had basically like fallen for this scam and lost $50,000 because they like got her on the phone and told her like her child was in danger, and like
they
all
knew her
these,
kid's
and, like,
social security number and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, they like kept her on the phone too. They like wouldn't let her. They were like, if you hang up, like that bad things will happen. She totally fell for it, and she like dropped off $50,000, and then she like. They hung up, and she said like 3 minutes later, it was like she was like hit by a bolt of lightning. It was like, wait, what is wrong with me?
Yeah.
Crazy story. I recommend it. But like that's an extreme, obviously. But to the point of like kind of the scammy like closing, like getting into the psychology of it, like maybe Roma would have trained one of these people who was on the phone with her.
Yep.
I don't know.
I think Kiah I think you were talking about like the texts you get that are just like, hey, it's Sally. Remember me? We met. And they lead you on, and it's this like multi-month thing where they get to know you, and eventually, I guess, they ask for money. I feel like conventional wisdom, most people don't fall for that. I mean, if you're like me, I try and engage them because I want to see how far I can take it. But then I don't know if you ever watched John Oliver's show on HBO. He did a whole thing about this and how there's people in rooms that are basically like almost indentured servants that are doing this around the clock.
Yes.
Right.
I bet you those rooms look a little bit like the room that these guys are in. With
like this Brooklyn office of this state.
Those people wish but like they would love to be fired.
Awful.
You know what I mean? They would love to be like, I guess I'm just not good enough. I'll see you later, guys. Good luck on the next month,
How real do you think those threats were also? Do you think anybody would have been fired? Like, that's what I want to know is,
are they even getting salaries?
Well,
they're not. It's all commission based. So why not just quit?
Yeah.
Are they getting health care? They're probably not. Maybe. I don't think that company pays health care. Do they have dental?
I mean, clearly not for the machine's daughter.
Yeah.
Like, I guess she would be an adult or something.
We were talking about the machine's daughter being an adult, and like just again, that was also really depressing. I was just like, dude, just retire. Like, have a nice life. Get off this hamster wheel.
The side plot of Shelley the Machine Levine had some adult daughter with some nondescript health issues and was in a hospital or some sort of facility or something, and he was struggling to pay for it. I think is part of why he was not retiring, is because he was struggling to pay for it. There was something going on, which he doesn't bring up until the very end in the conversation with Kevin Spacey, where Kevin Spacey is basically like, go away, like I'm over this. I'm reporting you to the cops. And he's like, my daughter. At that point, though, it wouldn't have been unreasonable for Kevin Spacey to think that that was a load of BS. I mean, like, because the machine had been lying the whole movie.
Yeah.
And he had, like, also just railed into Kevin Spacey's character about how awful and nepo babies he was.
Yeah. Those are my favorite
anyways.
parts of the movie, by the way, being mean to Kevin Spacey. Like, why does anyone have this job? And I include Kevin Spacey's character in this. Like, that office manager, why? What do you do all day, number one? And number two, like, you are a terrible office manager, and you, like, all of your employees hate you. Why does everyone hate themselves and allow themselves to be hated so fully?
There's no joy.
I know.
No.
Yeah, there's no joy in this movie.
This movie is allergic to joy. There is none.
Okay, so something we always gotta ask is, are they taking care of business in this movie, or are they not taking care of business? Brian?
Oh, geez. I might need like a definition, I guess.
However you define taking care of business, but I would enjoy your explanation.
Because the word pathetic is still just in my brain for this movie. I think we're watching these people who at certain, maybe Al Pacino's character is taking care of business. The rest of them are like past their peak or they've plateaued. So I don't think they are taking care of business. Yeah, I guess that's my best response.
Catherine, are they taking care of business or are they not?
Not remotely. No. No. In fact, I think they're making business worse.
There you go.
We didn't even talk about the robbery. We didn't talk about the robbery at all. We forgot about that. But if that says anything, they are not taking care of business. Yes, there is a robbery plot to steal leads, which we don't know that Shelley Levine, the machine Levine, is involved in, and so is Ed Harris's character.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and they like sell the leads to a competing firm and get $2,500 for it, which doesn't seem like that much if you're closing like $12,000 deals, but whatever. No, not taking care of business. In fact, maybe not taking care of business in a worse way than Kiah, our previous two movies, Trading Places, and I had Margin Call. Margin Call, which famously, like, thousands of people lost their jobs. These people were just like, they were floundering the whole movie. Even Roma.
Yeah.
One last thought I had about taking care of business, just a different perspective on taking care of business. 5 actors that had won Oscars in their career chewing the scenery of a Pulitzer Prize winning play. I think in some regard they took care of business. Like at least the actors behind the scenes. It seems like a pretty low budget film. What I also read on IMDb is that even on the days off, some of the actors would still come to the set just to watch the other actors act.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. So as a film buff, you can't get a better cast.
No. And I think that they all took like bad salaries or like, less salaries.
They took pay cuts. Yep. Yeah.
Than what they had been paying for this because it was such an important thing to them. And you're right. The performances were insane. Al Pacino was nominated for an Oscar on this, right?
He was the only nominee, actually.
Yeah.
For this movie.
Well, the play had won the Pulitzer, but yeah, no, you're right. You're right. The actors were taking care of business. The characters were not.
There we go.
Kiah, should we rate this movie? We
have not been rating movies. We have not been rating movies, and this is the first time I was like, should we rate this movie? Brian, I was psychoanalyzing everyone who told me to watch this movie as I was watching the movie.
I think I may have voted.
I was like,
I may have voted you to say.
I was like, one, why did people tell me to watch this movie? Like, it was almost like, well, now I'm watching the movie and I have questions why I'm watching it, but it's because other people told me to watch it. So what do people like about it? Is where I started spiraling. So, and then I texted Catherine and I was like, yo, we haven't been rating movies, and this is the first one that I was like, should we rate it? Like, should we rate 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 5, right? Like,
it's rated pretty highly on IMDb.
Yeah.
Look,
Critics loving it.
And Kiah are down with finance. Like, we like finance. We like corporate business movies. This was plain and simple, I'm sorry to say, a boy movie. Like, this was for guys, and that's great. Like, I'm so glad that guys have movies. Brian, we were joking before that you were in costume, and if I had worn a costume, that I would have been invisible because there were no women in the movie. That doesn't make it bad, okay? It makes it a little bit harder for me to connect. Maybe doesn't resonate quite as well. But if we're doing a rating, let's do like maybe out of 5 stars.
5,
Brian.
okay.
Yeah, 5 being really great. Brian, how many stars would you give this movie?
So I think when I watched it back in the 90s, I probably would have given it like 3.5 out of 5 because I was like just thrilled by this wacky dialogue, the Alec Baldwin scene. We may have rewatched that a few times.
Yeah.
It was
Oh, it
boring
so
though.
fun.
It's a
I
boring
know,
movie.
but I remember it being boring. It was never one of my
Yeah.
favorites. I do like some of David Mamet's films. Rewatching it now, I'm not sure the dialogue is off-putting. There's no, female characters or any
Non-white
minorities in it.
characters,
Like
yep.
but I do think like it's like the underbelly of what a large corporation and their salespeople are doing at the bottom of it.
Sure.
Like sometimes they're the unsung heroes of the organization. So I give it a little bit of love for showing like this like time capsule of what it maybe used to be like to sell. I'd probably give it 2.5 out of 5 these days.
Catherine, what about you?
Wow.
I think you guys
yeah.
you're going under.
Well, no, I mean 2.5 is pretty low to me, but you're our resident film buff, I guess. Because
Yeah.
did you say you studied film in college, or you just
I did at Temple University, yes.
Wow. I think, like I said, I think the acting was phenomenal. I think the writing was, for what it was, good. Just not my kind of movie, like a huge mega bummer of a movie. So maybe I would give it like, honestly, maybe I would also give it 2.5
Yeah.
or 2.
I could
2
do
stars.
2 and
I feel like
yeah.
a 1-star movie, I would be like unfinishable for
Yeah.
me. I got through it.
I think, Catherine, I'm with you. I'm with both of you. The movie quality itself, right? The actors were taking care of business. But the movie itself was like uncomfortable at all times, no joy. Also, again, quit your job. Like, I can't watch this like human hamster wheel of struggle and then pulling other people into your miserable existence. So like, I guess like, and then it's funny because the question is like, does the quality of the acting and the script neutralize or overcome how much the movie itself like I didn't like. And it's funny because like, is the movie good and you'll never rewatch it again? Is the movie bad and you'll never rewatch it again, kind of thing? And so I'm a 2.5 for sure. And everyone who told me to watch it, what the hell is wrong with you? Are you okay? Do you have joy in your life? Do you have people that you can reach out to for help? Because get out. Do not work in a job that makes you feel like this. Everyone who told me and Catherine to watch it, what is wrong with you? Are you okay? Do you work in a safe environment? If you don't leave, we'll help you find a new job. Nothing's worth a steak knife and a car like that. And in fact, I told Catherine, look, we're not even gonna let people vote next time. You get to pick the movie. We're done with this. With the wisdom of the crowd for a hot second. We're gonna watch a movie
Democracy is
we
over.
like.
Democracy is over.
But
yeah.
And I'm sorry,
Glad that we've watched
I may
it.
have told you to watch this. Yeah.
I'm
my
glad
fault.
that we watched it. I'm glad
we
that
watched
we've
it
seen
because
it.
now I can be a hater more accurately and fully.
Right.
There you go. No, I can't believe you hated on Trading Places because I, as a younger person, loved that movie. I don't know how it's aged. It's been a long
I
time.
liked Trading
It's
Places
really-
more than Kiah. I would give Trading Places 3.5 stars,
Yeah.
maybe.
Perfect.
The big downs were the racism, homophobia, misogyny.
All of the problematic stuff. But you, again, in the
But-
remake that we're going to do with prediction markets, we'll fix it.
It'll be perfect. Yeah. No, none of that. It'll still be like bad people, but like none of that. But yeah, margin call, 5 stars for me. What about you, Kiah?
I have my quibbles with it, but I think as another 24-hour workplace movie and kind of capturing the vibes and also the urgency, the real urgency, and the is lying acceptable question, I do think it's, especially of the financial movies, it's a 5-star. Is it going to be like in my top 20 favorite movies? No, but as far as like the subgenre of financial movies, yeah, 5 stars.
I've seen that twice, and yeah, it's not like an enjoyable film to watch, but I'm a little skewed. My high school friend produced Margin Call, and I was very
Whoa.
proud of him. Yeah, Neil Dodson, should give him a shout out.
He should have been on the
But
pod.
I thought it was
I know.
Well, he probably would come on, but that was a debut directorial film for
Yep.
J.C. Shander, and
Yes.
really pretty amazing what he pulled off. I look at it from like behind the scenes a little bit, but it's like this slow burn nightmare,
Yeah.
right? And I really liked it. I would give it, 4.5 stars probably myself. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry that all the movies are getting slightly worse every time we do this show. But thank you, Catherine and Brian, for joining me today and talking about this.
Yeah. Thanks
Yeah.
so much, Kiah. Brian, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, I was just saying,
Because
my brain is split into two sections: community banking and movies. So I
Perfect.
jumped at the opportunity to be part of this because it kind of combines both. And anytime you ever need anything about movies, I'll be there in a moment's notice. So yeah.
Perfect.
Well, have a good rest of your day and always be closing, friends.
Hey, coffee is for closers. Coffee is for closers. All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye.